I will note for the record that I'm acting as chair for today's meeting. I now call to order the meeting of the directors of the New York State, Urban Development Corporation, doing business as Empire State Development, for Thursday, October 19th, 2017. To ensure maximum opportunity for participation, speakers representing themselves may speak for up to 2 minutes each, and those representing groups for up to 4 minutes, one speaker per group. At this time, I'll ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflicts of interest on the agenda. As always, the directors have received the written materials in advance and are free to ask questions at any time. The first item on today's agenda is the approval of the minutes of the September 19th, 2017 directors meeting. Is there any questions, comments, additions, or deletions with regard to the minutes? Is there a motion to approve? Cesar, second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. We will move to the report section. I'm just going to, before we turn this program over to Pravina, and she's going to discuss small business, I thought I might talk about Amazon for a few moments, because that's very topical, and those submissions are due today, actually. And so let me just take people through it, because you may have some questions. It's certainly gotten a lot of attention. It's a very exciting opportunity for the great state of New York. So let me talk a little bit about what Amazon did. They issued a what I would describe as distributed or decentralized RFP, invited metropolitan areas from across North America to submit presentations and proposals for what they call HQ2, which is 50,000 jobs over 10 to 15 years, 50,000. That's probably the largest business development opportunity in the history of the country. Truthfully, I don't think there is ever has been, and maybe not for the next many decades, maybe not anything to rival it. So it, of course, has gotten a lot of well-deserved attention, and it's something that we're and have been actively engaged with. So let me talk about that for a minute. Because they've, the way the RFP was issued, New York State has, or I should say the metro areas, 4 metro areas have submitted responses. Buffalo, Rochester have joined in one RFP response. Syracuse and Utica, Mohawk Valley have joined together as one RFP response. The Capital District, Albany and the Capital District as one response. And New York City Metro as one response. New York City Metro is the 5 boroughs of New York, Long Island, Westchester. So we played a coordinating role, a particularly coordinating role in that submission, because in many of the upstate areas there are economic development organizations that represent those MSAs. In Buffalo, it's called Invest Buffalo Niagara. In Rochester, it's called Greater Rochester Enterprise. And Syracuse, it's Center State, and on and on. There isn't a similar EDO, Economic Development Organization. So ESD played a coordinating role with New York City, with Long Island, and with the Hudson Valley. So we had, because that's what Amazon asked for. The most important thing in these RFPs is deliver what the customer has asked you for. So that's rule number 1. So we have played a very supportive role. We've brought to the table for all of these MSAs a number of important services. We've brought data collection services to the table for them. We've brought marketing. We've brought production. We've brought real estate expertise, and we've done that both through our internal team, and we've done it through our extended family, if you will, of support that includes Newmark, Many of you know Newmark as a professional real estate consulting services business. They are often working on the other side of the table, if you will, representing corporations as they do headquarters searches. So we were able to get, if you will, in the mind of the potential customer, and they were able to bring to all of these metros a perspective from, say, Amazon side of the table in terms of what might be, appealing and positioning, also real estate expertise. The UB Regional Institute, many of you know Laura, who heads the institute, helped many of the regions with data analysis and data gathering. Of course, internally, we committed a lot of our own resources to this, and more people have been involved than I'm going to list off, but I do want to recognize some people who have made a significant commitment and contribution to this. Of course, Jeff Januszewski in our business development, the amazing Steve Gold has spent a ton of time on it, the amazing Rich Newman. Everyone is amazing, by the way, so I'll stop saying that. Leo Momorsky and Maura Bailey and Gio in our Albany office and Jim Held and RJ in the Buffalo office, and Holly has been very helpful. Holly Light, the Newmark team, the UBRI team, and I'm sure, I know there's been a lot more involved, but I just want to recognize those folks. All of our regional directors from these regions have been actively involved. So it's been a big effort on the part of ESD, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and we have, as the governor often says, you love all your children equally. And I think there's a metaphor there because there are 4 regions of the state. Each one of these submissions starts out with a letter from the governor to Jeff Bezos, and it talks about the incredible alignment that the entire state of New York has with Amazon's businesses. So if you think about it for a minute, think about the businesses that Amazon is in that you're familiar with. Some of you subscribe to Amazon. You watch TV and films. Think about our strength in TV production and film production in the state of New York. Amazon is all about tech and digital. Think about the leadership that we have now. New York State is only second to Silicon Valley and California in venture capital and the growth of the technology industry. Think about their recent acquisition of Whole Foods. And if you go up the Hudson Valley, the whole farm-to-table movement, food production across upstate, agriculture, organic, you name it. Think about drone testing on unmanned aerial systems and delivery and logistics. Think about the state's strength in areas like merchandising, advertising, promotion, fashion, finance. The alignments are extraordinary, and the governor uses a metaphor of the Erie Canal and talks about how the Erie Canal reduced the cost of shipping goods from New York City to Buffalo from $100 a ton to $5, and reduced the time from 21 days to 6. Think about Amazon today, and think about the Erie Canal then, how it reduced the cost and increased the variety simultaneously. That's exactly what Amazon does. So we align in so many ways. If you think about the universities that we have in the state of New York, second to none, both public and private, research in cybersecurity, research in cognitive computing, research in big data, all across the state. So I think no matter how you look at it, New York State aligns with Amazon's businesses, and our strengths are important opportunities for them. The incentives, the governor's been extraordinarily supportive of our being both competitive and creative and comprehensive in the way we approach it. We have not released publicly what we're doing because we are in a competitive situation with metros all over the North American continent. So the state has sent a letter directly to to Jeff Bezos and to the Amazon team. That wasn't included in the MSA submissions. That was a direct communication from the state to Amazon. And again, you love all your children equally. The state's incentives apply equally, regardless of which MSA submitted. So for all of those reasons, New York and Amazon align and, have the opportunity, I think, to grow better together. There's oftentimes a discussion on how much incentives, and there's been some, headline-grabbing numbers. I want you to know that a decision like this for Amazon will take into account a lot of different factors. I would say every chromosome in my body is confident that this will not, a decision that will not be determined by the incentives. It will be a factor, one of many factors. But if you think about Amazon and 50,000 people at $100,000 a person per their RFP, and you pick a location or a metro that you're going to be in for at least some number of decades. They've been in Seattle now for 20 plus years, 20 years or so. Over 20 years, that number comes to $125 billion of payroll. Amazon has prided itself on making good long-term decisions. If you read Jeff's letter to shareholders, he highlights we make long-term decisions. We make good long-term decisions. What's in the best long-term interest of the business? You don't, by definition, make great long-term decisions by focusing on short-term incentives. We have to be competitive. We have to be comprehensive. But this decision, I assure you, will be based in large part on a much wider array of considerations, particularly in all likelihood workforce and talent and the alignment with businesses and research that I have kind of laid out. So that's where we are. This process will, probably wind its way for some period of time. It's like, as I said, there's a lot of submissions I'm sure that they're receiving today that will have to get winnowed down over time. And then, it'll be a more of an iterative process with Amazon where you're really discussing things more and, figuring out what the best alignment is and, getting into some type of negotiation or discussion. So that's ahead of us. I think this is a kind of a more of a winding road than this isn't like going to the Academy Awards and opening up the envelope. So we look forward to having those conversations with Amazon on behalf of these regions.
When one reads in papers about the cities that people think are head of the pack, you don't see New York State cities listed. Does that worry you?
No, I think New York aligns better than any state in the country for Amazon's businesses, and I can see a lot of scenarios where New York provides a compelling opportunity for Amazon. I think some of the metros that were selected are way off the mark, frankly, in terms of what I think they're really looking for. So I think New York is truthfully in a fabulous position to potentially lure Amazon. And, I think we have an opportunity to, the way the canal kind of wove together the state, I think we have an opportunity to bring a lot of resources to bear to Amazon wherever they locate in New York from across the state. So I feel good about it. Okay. Just some other highlights. We were in Plattsburgh the other day. We broke ground on the Norse Titanium project. I think you're familiar with that 3D printing titanium. You have to see it to believe it. But that was great. This is, your classic example of 21st century tradable sector economy aligns with North Country transportation cluster. They're providing these titanium parts to the aerospace industry, to aircraft engines, to things of that nature with a lot of growth potential ahead. So that was exciting to be up there and see it. I know Cesar is missing the SIAT tours that are going on across the state now. You might recall these strategic assessment tours where the regions are, highlighting their accomplishments and their plans as they compete now for the 7th round of the REDC Awards. Amazon, speaking of which, announced that they're putting a 2,000-person admin office in Manhattan in the Hudson Yards. So Amazon is no stranger to New York State and no stranger to New York City. This is the second multi-thousand Amazon project announcement that we have made, that the governor has made in the last 6 weeks, I would say. First Staten Island distribution, now Manhattan administration. So again, Amazon is, familiar with New York City and familiar with New York State. There was a fabulous event in central New York where we really extended our commitment to unmanned aerial systems and partnering with New Air Alliance and with NASA on the testing of drones in central New York, as you know, which has been a big focus. In the southern tier, we announced a company, Imperium 3. This is noteworthy because this is a company that was runner-up in a clean energy competition in the southern tier, the way we do these business plan competitions, photonics in Rochester, clean energy in the southern tier, UAS drones in central New York. They were, I think, second place in the clean energy competition, went out and got funding, got more partnerships, and are, setting about building a lithium-ion gigafactory with hundreds of jobs in the Binghamton area. So we're excited about that. And what else? I think I have gone on long enough. Infrastructure is, of course, another tremendous asset that New York State has. We were in central New York with the governor doing a groundbreaking on the new Syracuse airport. We're in Plattsburgh, and we noted what a wonderful new airport they have. Going back to my Erie Canal metaphor, transportation infrastructure is really important to business. The state has, and I challenge you to go find another state that is in the midst of a $100 billion massive infrastructure investment project. That's what enables business. And with that fiscal discipline that the state, with that the best bond rating in over 50 years, with that the lowest taxes for all New Yorkers in half a century or more. I mean, this state has a lot going to it. To your question, Cesar, I think when you really look at it, it's extraordinary, compelling opportunity for Amazon, and we look forward to working with them. Okay, I'm not going to be looking at any paper today because I know we're going paperless. I'm going to turn the program over to Pravina, our EVP of Small Business, and she's going to do a presentation on her area, which is, as you all know, the leading cause of job growth in New York State and across the country. So we're in the era of small business and entrepreneurship, and we have a lot of activity going on from Long Island to Buffalo and everywhere in between. So with that, Pravina, it's all yours.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here with you this morning to talk about small business. I am extremely passionate about small business. The reason being, I'm a former small business owner who decided to come to the government so I can help other small business owners and entrepreneurs realize their dreams as well as their goals. So to me, I'm excited to talk to you about, and if you haven't figured out, I'm really, really excited, is the Division of Small Business and Technology Development. So just a few stats. I'm a finance person by background, so I like stats. So you may not know this, as Howard alluded, 20.8 million small businesses exist today in the United States, and they employ over 56.8 million people. So that's a lot of people. Just to give you an idea, that's 99.7% of the of businesses across the country are small businesses. So they are the leading in job growth, with 60% of all net new jobs coming from small business. But what does that mean for New York State? Because that's great. The United States is huge. We have over 500,000 small businesses, and we employ over 7.5 million people in those small businesses. And just to give you an idea, 82% of those firms are micro small businesses, which means they employ less than 10 people at a time. So we're trying to continually grow those up the pike. So we have a lot of work to do. So I like to say what our business does, which is the tagline on the bottom, is to help New York small businesses launch themselves, grow, and thrive. So how do we do that? Well, with everything, we have programs. So we have financial assistance programs, technical assistance programs, procurement assistance program, and innovation and technology. I like a lot of programs, in case you're wondering as well. How does it work? So we actually, ESD itself does not actually touch a lot of the small businesses. I have two exceptions, which will be coming on later on in the presentation. But what we do is we work with, through financial assistance, through third-party providers, who are extremely important. These third-party providers sit in the communities that we're trying to help. They understand the dynamics and the demographics of the small businesses that they're supporting. So we work with alternative lenders, we work with universities, we work with our EAP senators. We work with a lot of people to make sure that the small business has not only the financial as well as technical support, but also the community support so they can continue growing. So I speak fast, and I realize that, and I'm going to throw out a lot of program names because that's what we like to do in government. So I wanted to make sure that if you had any questions, you could go to the ESD website. There's a small business page and has all these programs on it. Or if you want to talk to someone in person, because today a lot of people like to actually have that touch and feel, you can call 1-800-New York State, which is 697-8283 for those people who like numbers. So what do we do? Financial assistance. We have several loan programs, and one of the biggest ones that we do is providing alternative lenders with capital. And these lenders can provide anywhere from literally a $500 loan to $2 million. So I have a stat that I want to see if anyone can answer, which you don't have to all answer if you don't know the answer. It's what is the number one cause for small businesses to fail? All right, I'll tell you. It's cash flow. It's cash flow. 82% of small businesses fail because of cash flow. Lindsay got it right. So, and what does that mean? So you see that loans can be used for working capital. That's what cash flow is trying to help people with working capital. You make great sales, you sign a lot of contracts. Unfortunately, you pay out your bills on time, but people don't pay you on time, and you now can't make payroll. And so what we do is try to make sure these small businesses can stay in workplace and actually make payroll by using alternative lenders. And the reason alternative lenders are very important, major big banks' acceptance rates of small business loans is at 23%. Alternative lenders' approval rates are at 61%. So when you go in as a small business loaner, you're probably more likely to get approved by an alternative lender because they work in your community and work with you. And actually 27% of small businesses can't even find funding if they even try to apply. So we're trying to help through that with our loan programs, and that's why we actually do something from as small as a $500 loan, because it really does make a difference. If you're a New York State contractor, we love you. We want to make sure that you also have short-term working capital. You've won that new contract, but you got to bring on employees, or you got to bring on equipment. We have our Bridge to Success program, which actually helps certified minority women-owned business entrepreneurs and enterprises with contracts. And then we have our Surety Bond Assistance program, and that actually is to help get small businesses, certified and non-certified small businesses, to get surety bond contracts to be able to bid on these opportunities. And then I have lots more loan programs because I don't like to do things only once over. So we have the Link Deposit Program, and really what this program does is take an interest rate reduction. So the small business gets an interest rate reduction courtesy of the state. We actually put deposits in with 71 financial institutions. We have 71 banks who participate, and they pass on that interest rate savings to the small business. And if you're an MWB, you could be up to 3% interest rate, depending on the prevailing interest rates that are around. And then we have our Global New York Fund. So we are so excited about our products here in New York State, we want to make sure we export them. And so this is really about getting small businesses to actually directly export to other countries, or even acting as a supplier to a larger export so that more people know what New York State small businesses do. So this is what we do. We have created over 55,000 jobs and retained over the last 6 years, and we continue. So remember that 7.5 million number, we want to make sure it keeps going up. I had 2 exceptions on lending because I usually use third-party providers, and these are our JDA, Job Development Authority, and it really is about helping small businesses look at manufacturing in New York State, and our MRF Fund, which is actually looking to help governments as well as small businesses through loans through a very limited geographic scope, and it's part of the New York portion of the Port Authority. So it's Nassau County, Westchester, New York City, and Rockland. This is what we've been doing. We took a nascent program that we had in 2011 and have grown it and actually have created more jobs and actually got more loans out on the streets to help more manufacturing as well as MRF projects come across. So technical assistance. Don't worry, we're halfway through the presentation, so don't worry. Business Mentor New York. This is actually a free, and I'm going to keep saying that, free website that actually allows small businesses to connect with volunteer mentors, and they can be from any topic, from how do I use a social media account, I have cash flow problems, how do I market my business, I don't know how to read a balance sheet, can you help me? And they will actually either meet on person, on the web, or even on the phone and actually get help for free. And we have quite a few engagements from this. It was launched 3 years ago, and the engagement levels have gone up, and it's very easy to use. You put out your request, and then you just get responses back. It's kind of like Match.com for those of you who do online dating. So, Entrepreneurial Assistance Program. See, now you know how many people do online dating. Our Entrepreneurial Assistance Program is really about helping new entrepreneurs start. What we do is we would provide a 10-week on-site course where they learn how to do read financial statements, build business plans, and figure out if really small business is for them. And if it is, then we actually provide them with more resources to actually launch these businesses. And when they're there, they learn about our MWB certification program and actually can get help in becoming MW certified so they can get New York State opportunities. So we have helped over 17,000 businesses either launch or create through all of our technical assistance programs in the last 6 years. Procurement assistance. So you become certified, you want to know where to bid. We have this New York State Contract Reporter, and that is actually so that you can learn about our opportunities and also get to see prospective opportunities as well as historical opportunities. I always tell people, look at somebody who won a business that you'd like to do with the state. That contract will come up for rebid. Make sure you know what you need so that you can get that contract when it comes up. And then NYSTAR. I'm not going to spend a lot on this slide because I understand that an upcoming spotlight is going to be the NYSTAR team coming up to talk to you about this. But really what you should know about this is us supporting our research and development activities. We have some of the best state universities as well as private universities, and we partner with them to get small businesses to learn about high tech and to use their resources on campus, as well as providing innovation support in our hotspots and incubators. So this is all great. I've just wowed you with a lot of numbers and program names, but success stories, that's really what it's about. And these are just some that we have. Some you already know because you've actually had to approve the paperwork, but I actually wanted to just go through them really quickly. We have Link Deposit. This is the one that does the reduced rate interest rate. We helped Lake Ontario Fruit, which supports 35 family-owned apple orchards. This is interesting. We brought in a new technology into their business that they needed, and actually it was very good that they made that opportunity happen because this year, due to all the unexpected storms, their crops were at risk, and they were able to salvage them with the technology that they were able to purchase through our program. Our Capital Access Program, which is also providing small loans. Zam Nguyen, who's a Burmese refugee, decided to start a value redemption, which is really just bringing your cans and bottles to a center to get the money. And the reason he did this is because immigrants tend to be bullied and intimidated at redemption centers, and their money is taken from them. So he wanted to stop that problem, so he started his own small business, this redemption center, to help the immigrants who come to this country and are using that as a form to actually just upkeep with lifestyle. Job Development Authority, Castelli America. I think you guys have seen this one, but this is about the Italian cheese producer that we were able to retain up in upstate New York. We saved 92 full-time jobs, and we are creating another 58. MRF, this is actually funny. If you've ever been to JFK, you know it's a zoo, but now we're actually going to have the first USA full-service 24-hour privately owned quarantine facility that will have exotic zoo animals in it. So that is an interesting loan. It's a loan that we're providing directly to ARC to actually make a better facility at JFK. It's a surety bond. Remember I told you those are important for New York State contractors. Governor Cuomo recognized E. Smith contractors. We actually provided their inaugural surety bond so that they could get onto New York State contracts, and now they're a company that grosses in the millions and has over 20 employees. This is one of my favorites. It helps kids. Alto Networks is a production company. They were a startup, a husband and wife team. They couldn't get any funding, and they wanted to do a Battle of the Bands community event in their hometown. They were able to get funding through us. They had a very successful band, and the elementary school got not only instruments, but air conditioning for their very much needed instrument room. EAP, Entrepreneurial Assistance Program. This is the program that helps entrepreneurs figure out whether they should be in business and what they need to know. TK is a Laotian immigrant who came and started his business in 2013. He was failing. He was ready to go out of business, and then what he decided was to take an EAP class. He got his certification as an MBE, and he now has over 20 state, local, and statewide contracts from our help, both from financially as well as the technical assistance. And Business Mentor New York, I think Randall is really funny. He said he went and saw one of our tables that we have at one of these expos and said, "I just give it a try. I thought I'd kick the tires." He had a couple questions about media. He had a couple questions about marketing. And he said within an hour, he got 4 new mentors, which he's been using. So we're looking forward. And you're going to learn more, like I said, about NYSTAR, but this was an interesting. In case you ever wanted to clean your phones, we have Clean State UV, which used the Center of Excellence Materials Informatics up at University of Buffalo, and they took a rudimentary device and made it into that product that you see on the screen. The beer? No, not the beer, the other one, Sure. We also have, just so you know, we Empire Brewing, we support them if you ever want to go. They just won another award, so another beer. We were going to bring beer, but we realized 9:30 in the morning might be bad. So really, what do? We really help New York State small businesses launch, grow, and thrive, be it from the farming community, manufacturing, the guy out on the street, our cart vendors, and like I say, always shop small if you can. And just to actually bring home one more success story, as some of you saw in the beginning, there's a cake. That is actually from a small business that we supported. But the interesting twist is our EAP Center, which is the Entrepreneurial Assistance Center. She is a certification expert there, so she's the one who helps people do MWBE certification. And she decided she was going to live out her dream after helping all these entrepreneurs and open Just Jazzy Cakes 212. And so she created the cake that we will be trying. I don't know if all of us will be trying, but I'll try it. I brought enough plates, hopefully. And just in case you want to know, it's a chocolate, vanilla, and red velvet cake with cream cheese icing. So my name's Pravina. Oh, well, great, good. Like I said, my name's Pravina. We're here to help small business, and I'm happy to entertain any questions if you have some. Yeah.
One question. Do you coordinate with the Federal Small Business Program in New York?
I do. I am actually the former district director for the Small Business Administration, so I know them very well. In fact, I hired my replacement at SBA, so we do coordinate them, and we actually coordinate mostly through our small business development centers because they receive both federal support as well as state support.
So you work with Beth Goldberg?
Yep.
No friend.
All right.
We've worked together.
All right.
Not a question, just a comment. I'm
Yeah.
pleased that you're supporting so many immigrant entrepreneurs. Like they're becoming the backbone of small business.
Very much so.
How can you say that? You're saying nice things about immigrants.
I say that
That
all
was
the
off
time.
the record.
Pravina, thank you. It was really helpful also to have those real, examples, business examples. Because I feel like I'm in these budget hearings all the time talking about our programs, but having like the companies and the way they've applied to their businesses
That's very good.
is fabulous. So thank you for that and for all the good work of you and your team. I've been to that animal terminal. I have been. I tried to fly out of there once. They vend milk bones there. They have a kiosk where they sell milk bones. Those are made in Buffalo, I just want to say. All right. Before we proceed to the presentation, Glenn, you've got a summary?
Yes, sir. Good morning. The directors will be requested to consider 5 projects totaling $27,011,000 in grants. The projects include 7 regional council awards and 2 discretionary awards. The project will take place in the Southern Tier, Finger Lakes, and Central New York regions. leverage over $55 million of additional investment, and create 6 jobs in the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Vinny Esposito, are you on the line? I think you've got a couple of items.
Good morning. Good morning, Director. Excuse me? Yes, I have 2 projects for you this morning. The first is the Rochester Public Market Capital Project, where the directors are asked to approve 2 Regional Council Capital Fund grants totaling $2 million to the City of Rochester for the renovations and expansions of their very popular Rochester Public Market, where 2 new sheds, one including a year-round facility, have been constructed and completed as of last month at the Rochester Public Market. This was a total project cost of $9.7 million that also included funding from DASNY and Ag and Markets. It was a priority project of the Finger Lakes Regional Council to support their ag and food pillar strategy. The second project you're being asked to approve is 3 grants totaling $15 million, $2.5 million of which are Regional Council Capital Fund CFA awards, and $12.5 million of which is an Upstate Revitalization Award to the University of Rochester to create a new home for their Gorgon Institute of Data Science. The University of Rochester, as you may recall, is a private college in Rochester that is, including with its medical center, the 7th largest employer in all of New York State. They have recently completed the construction of a new 60,000 square foot facility called Wegman Hall, named after former Regional Council co-chair Danny Wegman, who contributed $20 million towards its construction. The state contribution will help create the new home for the Gorgon Institute of Data Science, which will also house the existing New York State Center of Excellence in Data Science. Data science has become a cornerstone of the University of Rochester's new strategic plan that will allow it to study the analytics involved in big data, from everything from imaging to retail to health. The project was $50 million in total. It was completed in August of 2017. Be happy to answer questions about either project.
Great. Vinny, questions from the directors on either of these 2 items? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor? Sorry, I should ask, is there any comment from the public on any of these items? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Vinny. Next up, Joe Roman from the Southern Tier has 2 projects. Joe?
Yes, good morning, directors. I have 2 projects, the Roxbury at Stratton and also the City of Elmira mixed-use capital project. For the Roxbury at Stratton, the directors are requested to approve a $3.2 million grant to Masterson Holdings, LLC, to be used for a portion of the cost for establishing a tourism destination project in Delaware County. The project will include a new lodging facility on a 7.1-acre parcel, adaptive reuse of an existing 5,700 square foot building, which was a mansion at one time, and also the construction of 5 new outbuildings. The owner, Craig Masterson, has an existing facility in Roxbury already. It's about 2 miles away. It is the first and only luxury boutique lodging facility of its kind in the Southern Tier, and draws tons of tourism from both domestic and international markets. It's one of the most significant drivers of tourism in that part of the region. The project cost is $7.3 million, and this was an application that was funded through round 5 of the CFA process, and the project is just starting to move forward with some site demolition, site preparation on the site. The second project is the City of Elmira, the mixed-use capital. The directors will be asked to approve a new general project plan that will replace and repurpose one that was formally approved by the directors, which was a Round 2 Restore Award, and that was done on September 18th of 2008. And this is to be combined with the original funding that was just awarded through the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. Elmira was a successful awardee, and that was announced in 2016 for the city. The request today will make up a total of $6.3 million available from both grant programs to be used for some of the cost of demolition, site preparation, and also the construction of a 65,000 square foot building to include 50 housing units, 16,000 square feet of commercial retail space, as well as parking and other amenities to the City of Elmira. The total project cost on this project is $14.6 million, and I would be remiss not to say the project is expected to generate 30 construction jobs and 50 full-time equivalent permanent jobs. But the most significant thing, this project is a centerpiece of Elmira's DRI initiative. It will be the first, with the exception of the arena and the exception of a college dormitory facility, it will be the first development investment of its kind in downtown Elmira in the past 40 years. There's been no buildings constructed in downtown Elmira like this one in the downtown core area. Again, it is a $14.6 million project, and I'd be glad to entertain any questions on either proposal.
Okay, any questions from directors on either of these two items in the southern tier for Joe? Joyce?
I just have a question on the Elmira project. The first, well, it's technically, I guess, round two. I was going to say the first round. The first round, which they were involved in, it wasn't until, it was 2008 when the funds were approved, when the projects were approved, and it wasn't until 2014, 6 years later, that they decided that it couldn't be done. Is that correct? I'm just wondering why it took 6 years.
I'm not sure if I heard the whole question. I'm sorry.
Why did it take 6 years for them to decide that the first plan couldn't be carried out? I mean, it seems like a long time.
The first plan, which was done in 2008, they had several developers that they worked with for the city of Elmira, but at the time, the rate of return was not attractive enough to any investors, and they struggled for years to get an investor in there. So that's why it struggled in the first round to garner any support and actually get the project moving.
Other questions? Any comments from the public on either of these two items? Is there a motion to approve both items? Cesar, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joyce. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Next up, Jim Fail from Central New York. Jim?
Good morning. Today, the directors are being asked to approve a $511,000 grant to the World Racing Group to help convert a asphalt track in Oswego into a dirt track to host an annual event called Super Dirt Week in Oswego. The funds were used to improve the pit area, the camping and parking site, the grandstands, putting dirt on the track, as well as removing it after the event in order to be able to accommodate this event. This is as a result of 2 years ago when the governor had made substantial improvements to the New York State Fairground. This event had been previously held there for over 40 years, and the grandstands that this event was held at as part of the renovations was torn down, so this became a backup site for this event, at which time, the governor had agreed to help with these conversion costs. The site was held the first week of October. It brings roughly 70,000 spectators into Oswego for that week, and it's a very important and successful event here in Central New York. And I'll be glad to entertain any questions.
Any questions from the directors for Jim on Super Dirt Week, Oswego? Any comments from the public on this? Is there a motion to approve? Thank you, Hilda. Second, Cesar. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Thank you, Jim.
Thank
Simone
you.
Bethune will present the October non-discretionary projects consent calendar. Simone.
Thank you. Good morning. The directors are asked to approve a $5 million grant to Trudeau Institute to be used for a portion of the cost of operations and staffing at its biomedical research laboratories. The project will help to develop a network of alliances with major medical research universities. This initiative is part of a 5-year strategy for the formation and execution of multiple partnerships in infectious disease research and development with medical universities, inventors and entrepreneurs, biopharma companies, and the federal government, particularly the Department of Defense and Health and Human Services. These partnerships are designed to provide financial and operational stability to Trudeau by building a diversified business model which will encompass the Trudeau Research Network, Clarkson Alliance, professional and graduate organizations, and a binational collaboration with Canada. Completion is expected December 2018. And I can take any questions.
Great, thank you, Simone. Any questions for Simone on this Trudeau item? This, as I recall, was part of a multi-year commitment in the budget. So for some time, we've been supporting Trudeau. Any questions from directors on this item? Any comments from the public? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Joy. Second, Hilda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Thanks, Simone. We've got the New York Ventures team with 2 items. Sharon Rudder.
Yes, good morning. Today I'm requesting the directors approve $1.25 million from the Innovate Fund to be awarded to 4 previously approved investment entities for follow-on investing in existing New York State portfolio companies. The Innovate New York Fund is a $47.9 million fund designed to support innovation, job creation, high-growth entrepreneurship throughout the state by investing in seed businesses through regional investment entities selected by and contracted with corporations. Since its launch in late 2012, the Innovate New York Fund has provided over $35 million in investment capital and leveraged over $220 million in private sector matching capital to 81 startup and seed-stage companies. To date, the fund has helped to retain 662 jobs and create an additional 1,173 new jobs, which is actually quite a lot for one program. Although follow-on investment funding is part of the original design of the Innovate New York Fund, most of the Innovate Fund have invested all of their capital. Due to the need for additional follow-on capital, we would like to transfer $1.25 million of unallocated program funds to previously approved investment entities to invest in their strongest portfolio companies. An additional $2.5 million was approved by the directors in April of 2012. Okay, so upon review of the fund's proposals received and considering the amount awarded in April, I am requesting the directors approve an additional $410,923 for each of the following 3 funds to invest in follow-on capital. The first one is Cayuga Ventures out of Ithaca. The second one is FF Venture Capital out of New York City. And the third is the Partnership Fund of New York City, which focuses on life sciences primarily. In addition, I'm also requesting the directors approve an additional $17,230 for Excel Partners. Excel focuses primarily investing upstate and primarily in the Rochester area. They did receive $393,704 for follow-on investing, additional follow-on investing in April. This additional $17,230 will bring their amount in line with the other 3 funds today. I'm asking for the approval for the 4 funds additionally.
Okay, are you done, Sharon?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
All right, yeah, sorry to everyone, that was hard to hear. I'm not sure where you are. You sound like you're in a submarine somewhere under the ocean. Maybe next time we can have somebody here in person, since most of you work here.
I apologize.
Did directors understand that enough to get a sense of what it is? Okay. Are there any questions from directors on the Ventures project? Any questions or comments from the public on this? Is there a motion to approve? Thank you. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okie dokie. Sonia Gelati will now present the Sonia, Sonia, you have a venture capital item. Take it away.
Okay, good morning, thank you.
Thank you.
The New York State Innovation Venture Capital Fund is requesting approval for investment of up to $1 million in Kairos Therapeutics, a life sciences startup company based in New York City. Kairos Therapeutics is developing a novel small molecule that directly targets mutant variants of the KRAS protein. KRAS mutations are present in 30% of people with cancer and in 50% of patients who develop metastatic cancer. Patients who have the KRAS mutation tend to have highly aggressive and recurrent breast, ovarian, head and neck, lung, or pancreatic cancers. Based on computational studies, Kairos Therapeutics has identified a potential drug candidate that significantly reduces the mutant KRAS activity in cancer cells. The company has already conducted initial proof of concept experiments in cancer cell lines and has attracted significant inbound interest from leading biopharmaceutical companies. Kairos Therapeutics is co-founded by Dr. Brent Stockwell. He is a professor in the Department of Biological Sciences and Chemistry at Columbia University, and Versant Ventures. Versant Ventures is a leading healthcare investment firm that is committed to supporting the New York life sciences ecosystem. In 2015, Versant started an accelerator in New York City, which is dedicated to commercializing research coming out of New York State universities. Kairos Therapeutics is one of the first companies they've seeded. We'll take any questions.
Any questions for Sonia on this life science company in New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
Questions for Sonia on this? Any comments from the public? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Cesar and Joyce. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Sonia. Rich Dorado and Laura Rogers will present the next two items regarding contracts for legal services.
Good morning.
Take it away.
This is a contract for legal services from Skadden Arps. The firm is working with us and with the MTA. Can everyone hear?
A little closer, Rich. Thanks.
Is working with ESD and the MTA to develop the Long Island Railroad portion of the Penn Station building. That portion, called the 33rd Street Corridor, because it runs underneath 33rd Street from 7th Avenue to 8th Avenue, connects to our Phase 1 redevelopment of the Farley building, providing new access to Long Island Railroad passengers to the platforms beneath Farley. We are working with the MTA and negotiating with Vornado Realty, that is the owner of the real estate along the north side of the corridor. This is viewed somewhat as a continuation of what we've started at Farley. So ESD is representing, Skadden is representing ESD and MTA in connection with the negotiations with Vornado. The contract amount is $950,000 plus expenses, and the idea is to move the transaction along as quickly as possible so that work can get underway on that corridor. Thank you.
Okay, great. Do we want to, why don't we do the next item as well?
Morning. The directors are asked to approve an amendment to the legal services contract with Hardwick Law Firm, LLC. This amendment would increase the contract value from $300,000 to $425,000, also plus expenses. The additional $125,000 will be used to cover and pay for bills related to Hardwick's excellent work on the closing of the Moynihan Train Hall TIFIA loan. That was closed back in July. Hardwick is a certified MWBE and was selected from ESD's pre-qualified list to provide these services. And MTA funds, in addition to the Skadden contract, will also be used to pay for all expenses and fees related to this contract.
Okay, great. Any questions from directors on either of these two resolutions related to Moynihan Train Hall Professional Legal Services? Yes, Joyce.
Just want to confirm both of these are being paid for with funds from the MTA, not by Empire State Development. Right. Okay.
Other questions? Comments from the public? There's a motion to approve both of these Moynihan items.
So moved.
Thank you, Cesar. Joyce, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Thank you very much. Next item, Maria Mitchell, and she'll present 2 items related to our life science initiative. Maria.
Thanks, Howard. Good morning. The first item is a request to enter into a contract in the amount not to exceed $950,000.
Can you just move that closer?
Yeah, sure. Sorry. Authorization to enter into a contract in the amount not to exceed $950,000 for consulting services in connection with the Wadsworth Laboratory Redesign Project in Albany. Wadsworth, as you may know, is the second largest public health lab in the country and plays an integral role in protecting the health of New Yorkers and is in great disrepair. To begin addressing this, $150 million was allocated in the FY 17-18 budget for a market study of public-private partnerships, site selection, and other work toward rebuilding of a new lab and to stimulate growth of the commercial life science ecosystem in the capital region and the state. Phase 1 of this initiative was carried out by Deloitte following an expedited RFP through DASNY. During the Phase 1, Deloitte identified possible relocation sites and multiple academic commercial entities interested in Wadsworth Partnership and an opportunity for a bioaccelerator program. During this Phase 2 contract, which ESD will oversee, the purpose is to continue ongoing initiatives, particularly the multi-partnership discussions and negotiations, evaluate and develop investment and partnership opportunities that enhance and synergize the capital region's life science strategy with the rest of the state. Deloitte will facilitate these public-private partnership discussions carried through from Phase 1, develop a bioinformatics public-private partnership to leverage DOH and Wadsworth capabilities and assets, identify an appropriate organization to develop and implement a bioaccelerator program, conduct an in-depth statewide life science landscape assessment to more comprehensively assess Wadsworth partnering opportunities and other life science investments in the state. The contract request is a single source contract and a contract reporter exemption has been granted. And that is the Wadsworth Deloitte contract.
Okay, you have 2 items, or is that?
Yes, I have a second item.
Okay, go.
The second item is a request for authorization to make a grant of up to $1,650,000 to the University of Rochester Medical Center to be used for planning activities necessary to establish a sustainable upstate drug discovery center. These activities will contribute significantly to the development of critical infrastructure necessary for the growth of the life science industry in New York State and fall within the capital guidelines that were approved by this board this past July. The Upstate TDI is being modeled after a similar initiative already underway in New York City, the Tri-Institutional Therapeutics Discovery Institute, TDI, a partnership of 3 major medical research institutions, pharma, and VC investors. ESD seeks to replicate the TDI model in upstate New York through a partnership of the University of Rochester, the University of Buffalo, and Roswell Park Cancer Institute, and private pharma and VC entities as well. In order to replicate the model, the upstate institutions require substantial planning and infrastructure creation. The University of Rochester and the University of Buffalo have contributed $200,000 in kind contributions to date. The project itself is designed to expedite early-stage drug discovery, inject venture capital and private pharma dollars toward a model for expedited new patent development and new companies. The University of Rochester will undertake the following tasks: facilitate a partnership between University of Rochester, University of Buffalo, and Roswell Park to replicate the TDI model, establish program infrastructure, develop business and financial plans, and manage institutional agreements, enable affiliation agreements with corporate partners willing to invest in the resources, and support ongoing program alignment. This Upstate TDI will significantly expand and accelerate the commercialization of new therapeutics in New York State, translating life science research into new company creation, infusing venture capital and pharma dollars, and creating life science jobs upstate through industry partners and suppliers.
Okay, questions for Maria? Yeah, Joyce.
Yeah, given the fact that we are investing a considerable amount in this project, is there any way that the state will benefit from any upside in the investment in these products? The
Well,
commercialization of these products?
Well, absolutely. First of all, this particular piece of this is for a planning grant, so this is planned for that upstate TDI. Once the TDI is in place, the sole purpose is really economic development, job creation, new companies. It would bring private sector injection of capital both to the universities up there and to job development. And that is the goal of this, is to grow the whole life science ecosystem up there. So there's a direct impact through job creation and the buildup of the sector up there.
Right, but I assume that the private investors are going to benefit from this. And is there any way that the state itself, aside from the job creation, can recoup some of its investment directly in terms of return on investment?
The sole purpose really is to develop the new companies. The private sector is putting capital into the universities as well in the downstate model. There have been tens of $millions invested in the new companies. There is a possibility, if we choose to invest directly in a company, that we could get the upside of that development. But the sole purpose right now is for the new company development, also to retool the institutions to be able to function more entrepreneurially to create those activities. So it is job creation primarily, and then we will evaluate whether there's actual investment in companies. But right now, the investment is in the academic institutions to be able to grow those companies.
We get an upside when we invest the Innovate, any of the innovation funds or the private equity funds. But otherwise, just like most of our economic development, the state is getting economic activity, it's getting investment, it's getting jobs, it's getting revenue from those jobs. But it's not getting an equity interest unless it's from our innovation fund.
Yeah. And then I guess just to, as you said, Howard, and we work closely with the Innovate Fund for co-investment and looking for co-investment opportunities. And as we grow our own venture capital entity that we're working on, we can direct these companies or this investment toward those companies, and then we get the upside of that. So it's another piece of the strategy.
Okay. Other questions from directors? Any other questions from directors? Any comments from the public on either of these two life science items? Is there a motion to approve them? Thank you. Hilda, second. Cesar, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Maria.
Thanks.
Steve Golick will present the first of our administrative actions. Steve?
Thank you, Howard. We're asking approval of another land bank. This one is from the counties of Orleans and Niagara County. It's a joint land bank with the 3 cities that are in those 2 counties. This would get us to 23 out of the 25 that are allowed under the statute. So today we're asking the board approve their land bank application. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions from directors on the land bank application? Any comments from the public? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Joyce.
Second.
Cesar, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay, thank you, Steve. Rich Newman will present an item related to contract amendment for marketing. Rich?
Thanks, Howard. Good morning, everyone. The board is being requested to authorize a $75 million amendment to ESD's existing 3-year contract with Lowen Partners Worldwide, doing business as Campbell Ewald, New York, for a total contract cap of $225 million, which aligns our spending cap with available and expected funding. As you may recall, Campbell Ewald is ESD's marketing services partner, developing all marketing initiatives across multiple media for tourism and business attraction and retention promotion. I'm sure, or at least I hope, you've all seen our tourism and business attraction advertising.
Can we avoid them?
Thank you. And it's been very impactful. We measure impact through ongoing research, which is conducted every month, and evaluate our performance against a set of goals we establish at the beginning of each fiscal year. The goals generally represent an increase over our performance in the previous fiscal year. So we ensure a continuous improvement in the state's profile for both tourism and business attraction and retention. For fiscal year 17, on business attraction and retention marketing, we increased business leaders' positive perceptions of New York State, an average of 10% over the same perceptions last year. We also increased ESD website visits nearly 20% above our goal for the fiscal year. We increased by close to 10% the percentage of business leaders who would consider New York State as a place to open or expand a business. And best of all, this is the best part, okay? Business leaders who are exposed to our marketing are 25 to 50% more likely to consider the state over people who have not seen our marketing. We generated 829 leads to ESD originators, and 60% of these leads were judged recontactable, meaning they were worth a follow-up call and discussion with ESD about creating jobs in New York State. For tourism marketing, the results are equally impressive. We increased by over 20% over the year-ago period the number of potential tourists who positively rate New York State as a great destination. We increased by over 20% versus last year the number of people who would consider New York State as a place to visit. And we increased visitors by over 5 million and helped generate tourism's $104 billion total economic impact, which is a $4 billion increase over the year-ago period. So the request of the board to increase the Campbell-Ewald contract cap enables ESD to continue to utilize the contract for its successful marketing activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Any questions from the directors on this item? Several. Sorry. Go on, Hilda.
Hilda to go first. Ladies first.
Ladies first, Hilda.
So do they do all the marketing themselves, or do they subcontract to other maybe small businesses to help with the
They
marketing?
do subcontract to a number of different outside providers, and they do abide by the 40% MWBE requirement for state spending.
Thank you.
I've got two quick questions. I often sit in front of my TV set wondering why we're spending so much money on convincing people to come to start their businesses in New York or move their business to New York. But you've got a New York City market. Shouldn't we be spending that money in other parts of the country to get businesses to come to New York?
We spend money across the country.
How much of it is spent in New York?
Probably, I'd have to get back to you on the exact number, but it is probably close to 50%, maybe 58%.
It's spent in New York.
It's spent in New York, though the job growth, the net new job growth, is significantly skewed towards New York-based companies. So we are spending money.
So it's New York companies that are investing in expanding their businesses?
Expanding operations in New York State as opposed to New Jersey or Ohio or, God forbid, Pennsylvania. But I am, I know, with all respect to Pennsylvania, I mean that obviously we're trying to invest money for those places where we're getting the largest amount of growth, which does come from New York State business.
I didn't know that because the implication from when you watch these commercials is that people should consider New York as if they have not previously considered New York. You know, it's the new New York, as I understand the theme.
Right.
All right, that answers my question. I had a similar one about tourism.
Okay.
And, well, why don't you ask people who are tourists whether or not they came to New York because they saw an ad? I know you're giving us data a bit differently, but
Yes.
I'm wondering whether or not we can assume that the increase in tourism somehow relates to the investment in these ads. Wouldn't it be a better way to measure that? Wouldn't it be to ask people whether they've come here because of the ads?
The funny thing about advertising, at least in my experience, I've been doing this for 40 years now, is that advertising is one of the things people claim they've never, ever seen, and it has no impact on any decision they make, because they don't want to say that they're affected by something that seems as sort of direct an appeal as that. Because we do multiple types of marketing, we do advertising, we do digital marketing, we do social media, we do events, we do out-of-home and print advertising. There are many ways that we can actually change people's perceptions. So the research companies that we use say the most effective way to judge the effect of this is through the methodologies that we're using now.
Okay.
Joyce?
I'd like to come back to Cesar's first question, his first point about the new New York marketing campaign for businesses. Is there a way of knowing of the businesses that respond to the ads, the increase in calls, the increase in hits to the website, et cetera? How much of that are businesses that are already in New York? How much of it are businesses outside New York? I mean, what I'm concerned about is in terms of watching the ads, they do seem to be aimed more at businesses not located already in New York, and one would presume that businesses which are located here are already familiar with New York. And I can see that one might want to make them feel that they're part of this progressive, exciting enterprise. But I'm wondering, in terms of attracting new business or business to the state, if we're not better served by doing a larger proportion of the spending outside of New York State.
Just the specific question, I think you're asking, correct me if I'm wrong, is there a way to better understand the relationship between the outside of New York versus inside of New York? I think it's a fair question. I'd love to sort of give that a little more thought before we respond to you, so we can
Sure.
get that information back to you, Joyce. That would
Sure.
be great. Okay.
You know, the organic growth inside the state is, and I think this is probably true for most states, you're going to have the opportunity, your best opportunity is to grow with the base of business that you have. Because we had such a, truthfully, and it's easy to forget because it's changed quite a bit, we didn't have a great reputation either in the state or out of the state as a place to do business. I would say it wasn't that long ago that we, hit some low points actually. So, we've come a long way. I think it's important to share with people. A lot of times, you're on the ESD board, you talk to people, you're sometimes surprised that they don't know how much we have going on in the state, the full range of activities that we do. And our best opportunity in many ways is to grow with the businesses here in the state as well as businesses out of the state. So I think there's a balance between in-state and out-of-state advertising, and we've got good opportunity in both. And it's sort of like tourism. We do a lot of tourism with people in-state. We do a lot of tourism with people out-of-state. But in-state tourists, spend a lot of money here. We don't really want them going to your beloved Pennsylvania as much. But I want to just take a moment and thank the many people from Pennsylvania who visit New York. I want to thank the many Pennsylvanians who buy New York-made goods. We're very grateful to all of you. All right.
See the Adirondacks, not the Poconos.
Any other questions from directors for Rich? All right. Any comments from the public? Is there a motion to approve?
So,
Joyce, thank you. Hilda, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Rich. Okay, Jonathan Byer will present the last administrative item. Jonathan.
Thank you and good morning. The proposed amendment will extend and increase the contract for legal services for the law firm of Winston & Strawn. Winston & Strawn, for many years, has provided these legal services for a number of correctional facilities, including the Bayview Correctional Facility and Arthur Kill. ESD is amending the contract on a delayed basis, partly due to the fact that many of the involved attorneys, or all the involved attorneys at Winston & Strawn, have since moved to a different firm. I just want to emphasize that The vast majority of these costs are paid, ultimately paid by the project developers. Thank you.
Questions for Jonathan from the board? Any comments from the public? Is there a motion to approve? Hilda? Is there a second?
Second.
I know we're running out of steam, but it's the last item. All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you, Jonathan, very much. I now need a motion, or I'm asking for a motion to conduct an executive session pursuant to paragraph D of section 105 of the New York State Open Meetings Law, during which we will discuss a retainer agreement for counsel.
So moved.
Thank you. Second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
work you're doing in Puerto Rico, is that part of the governor's initiative, or is
Yeah,
that your initiative?
No, it's the government. And it's not in Puerto Rico.
I mean, but it's for Puerto Rico.
Yes.
Interesting. It's so, I just can't believe the president's been so.
I know. Heather also commented.
We're good now?
Yes.
As well as who's on her way to Puerto Rico.
Oh, really?
Next Friday?
Are we live now?
Yes.
Okay, great. I will entertain a motion to approve item 8A that was presented and considered in executive session. Is there a motion to approve 8A?
I second.
Thank you, Cesar Hilda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Is there a motion to adjourn our board meeting?
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you all.